Hey everyone, it's Presley of ActOutGames.com here, and today we are going to be doing a review of the Red Rising trilogy, which we just finished, and I'm obsessed with. I love it so much.
Yes, this would be like a book club video,
but
if we were still doing book club.
Yeah, we were supposed to be doing
book
club,
but we're
we
not.
haven't read the book.
Yeah.
That you're supposed
So these are, but it's also a follow-up to 3 books.
It is.
It's the entire trilogy.
All of them.
Presley just finished.
All of them.
So Presley read the first book, we listened to the second book, audiobook, in the car together, and then she read the third. And I had read all 3 about a year ago.
Yeah.
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 And I can't remember where I think maybe a recommendation came from a subscriber even.
To find Red Rising?
Yeah.
Whoever you are, please contact me right now so I can talk about it.
Maybe it may have even been like a book recommendation or something last year. I can't remember what it was, but I got really into them and read them all, and then finally got Presley to read them.
Yeah.
So this is Pierce Brown. You want to explain the plot a little bit at a high level?
Alright, explaining the plot at a high level, this is going to be difficult because it sounds very not as good as it is with the plot description. But
yeah, when I read the description of the series, I didn't think I would like it, but somebody recommended it, so I thought I would read it, and I ended up loving it.
I did love it.
Okay, so go ahead, describe.
Okay. So it is about it's way in the future. Society has colonized tons of planets. The human race.
The solar system, pretty much.
Yes, the human race is spread throughout the solar system.
Yep.
And society has eventually evolved so that it is factioned into the colors of your hair, eyes, and maybe skin.
Yeah. Mostly. Yeah.
Mostly hair and eyes. Yes, that's what's mentioned a lot.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone reading it, obviously, which parts are your color. But everyone is factioned into colors, and the colors is your rank in society.
Yep.
So reds are the lowest, they're like slave workers, and the golds are the highest.
Yeah, so the reds are the miners,
and
a lot on Mars.
Yes.
So they're mining resources on Mars. The golds are sort of the godlike supervisors of everything.
Yeah.
The silvers, I think, are the money handlers. Purples are entertainers. Pinks are pleasure workers. Obsidians are soldiers.
There's
blues are pilots, like
oranges
navigation.
are engineers.
Oranges are engineers. Like there's so everybody's sort of race determines their place in society.
Yes.
Right.
Which
and so
sucks.
that part, well, I think when Presley read that and sort of saw what that was, and when I read that and saw what that was, that sounded a little sort of heavy-handed. Yeah. And like too on the nose of sort of a social stratification kind of book.
But
and so I thought like, all right. But then it's just really brilliantly done.
And
right?
the plot
so
of the actual books, that's just set up.
So that's the setting.
Yes, the plot of the books is a red miner named Darrow basically goes to a plastic surgeon called a carver, and they turn him into a gold. And he has plans to infiltrate gold society and destroy it from the inside out.
Yeah, and it's not like, he went to a plastic surgeon and they applied some pigmentation to his skin.
No, they had to make it tall. They had to change
the
his
golds
density.
are much taller and stronger, and like it was a pretty brutal procedure. The description of it was pretty crazy. Yeah.
They're tall.
So there's that. They're very different, and they've even been, I don't know, whatever the process was, they can't interbreed even. So they are technically different species of humans, sort of at that point. And so, so Darrow gets carved. And his plan is to get inside of Gold Society and wreak havoc, basically. How exactly isn't clear when he's first kind of plotting what he's going to do, like what he's going to do.
He's like, I want to do that.
And they come up with different strategies for how to do it and stuff. But then, of course, he, finds golds that he likes and doesn't like, and there's reds that he likes and doesn't. So there's a whole, it's all people and not groups that you should hate and classify.
Yes.
And so I understand that it sounds really on the nose.
It's not. It's a really good book.
But it's
like
really not. It's really not the way that it's hard to describe without getting spoilery about it.
It's super hard to describe.
It's hard to describe how it's not as on the nose as it sounds like it is.
And even if that plot sounds like bad to you, there's this one character, his name's Severar Barca, and you should read the books. Like, even if you don't like the plot, you should read it just for him.
There are a couple of characters
so much.
Everyone can find a character to fall in love with, right? I think everybody will probably like Presley and I certainly both love Severo. Pax, love Pax. Ragnar was really amazing.
He's missing off the people who are large, except for Severo. He's tiny.
Yeah, Severo's not a big
tiny.
guy at all.
No, but Ragnar and Pax are large and soft, and I love them both.
I like Mustang. Like there's a lot of people to.
They're all so good.
There's a large cast.
Yes.
Right. and everybody's very different. They're really well written. There's, you know, the entire idea of, you know, villains don't think they're villains.
Oh yeah, because no one thinks they're, because that's what makes this book like so like not confusing, like it's still good and I understand what's going on, but so hard for me to get through because everyone thinks they're right, and there's no way to hate any character.
And it's hard to
they all think they're right.
Like, especially with Darrow, with the main character, it's really hard at any given point to know exactly what his motivations are.
God, no.
And I think he doesn't
So
know.
hard.
Like, he doesn't know anymore when he's lying and when he's telling the truth and when he's kind of manipulating people and how things are going. Like, it gets really fuzzy, certainly. And then, like, Presley and I've talked about this several times, but, you know, when you're writing a story like this, the idea is to have all of these mini catastrophes
Yes.
along the way. Like, it builds up and things look pretty good, and then it builds up a little bit and it ends. And so this book does that as well as any that I've ever read.
It does it so much, and I hate, like, it goes to the point where like, I really wish I could have read this without knowing, like, without it being in a book.
Yeah, we talked about that too. So this was an interesting concept, and I don't know how you pull this off, but I thought it was sort of fascinating. Like, the only way you knew that this time there was going to be a resolution one way or the other, whether it positive or negative, was because you were getting towards the end of the third book.
Yeah, because,
right? You could just tell that, hey, there's only so many pages left, and so this time he's either going to win or lose, right? Whereas every time else in the book, you could tell this is building up, and you're like, well, hey, I've got like 300 pages left, so something weird must happen here.
Yeah.
So if you could read a book like this without sort of knowing the context of where you are in the story, like, that would be really fascinating. Like, I think that would make this a really amazing ride.
It would.
But like the way that I talked about Rainbow Rowell paces her books better than almost anyone I've ever read.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the pacing of coming in and out of scene and summary, I think, is brilliant. Like, really, really amazing. And at that level, Pierce Brown does the sort of mini catastrophe. Driving forward, you think things are going one way, and then things kind of fall apart, and then you have to build back up, and you build a little bit higher this time, but then you fall, you know. What was the climb so high in mud you lie?
Yes.
Right? So it's
no,
very,
don't say that. That's bad.
very much up and down and up and down. Like,
Yes.
it's really, really brilliant. I was excited for
Icarus.
Presley to read it. Very Icarus. Icarus gets mentioned a lot, so there's a lot of Icarus in the story. But yeah, I mean, there's also a lot of, like, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it kind of thing. And like, it's there's a lot of allegory that takes place.
Yeah.
And you can, on so many levels, you can think about this book and how it applies to your life and society in general, and in a way that really caught me off guard, I think. Like, I wasn't prepared. And the audiobooks are fantastic. I think the guy that narrates, that reads the audiobooks was really great. I'm glad you got to listen to one of those. Presley got to hear the proper pronunciation of all the names.
Yay! I pronounce names all very off.
So that was, did it change the way you read the third book?
It did, because like, the first book I read entirely in what I thought they sounded like, and then the second book was what they sounded like according to the audiobook. The third book was this weird conglomeration of the two. Right. But it did change the way, and I did hear their voices from the audiobook a lot, which is good. I really liked the voices in the audiobook, because he does voices, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Severo's probably one of the best characters in a book that I've read in many years, too.
He's the best. Yeah. He is the best. I love him.
He must have been extremely fun to write.
Wouldn't he? I really want, there's a spin-off, and I really want it to be from Severo's perspective. I really want a spin-off.
So I think,
yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry, please.
Oh, it's the kind of book, just kind of describing the book more, it's the kind of book where at the end, all you want is for the characters just to have a big glass of hot chocolate and sit down and just have a good time, and I love that.
It's a pretty quick read.
It is.
They read it's 3 books, but they read relatively fast because it's really fast-paced and there's a lot going on, so I think you really get absorbed in the story and go through it. So Pierce Brown does, I think, live in LA. And so maybe at some point we'll cross paths and you'll get a chance to sit down and do an interview with him and ask him all kinds of questions and give him, fight him about some of the characters that didn't make it to the end of the book. No clues at all about who didn't make it, but there are people don't make it.
Oh yeah, he's a very,
it's a little Games of Thronesy at some point.
Games of Thrones?
Games of Thronesy.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Don't get too attached to anyone, I would say, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you can't help it though, because you're going to get attached to everyone because they're all so good.
Yeah, and it's really amazing, the complexity. Like, I don't know, it's like So, like Game of Thrones, to talk about that, right? Like, each little world is, like, super detailed developed, and so you get one level of entertainment from that book because of the world building that he does is so complex. Whereas I felt like with Pierce Brown, you're covering this entire solar system, but you just kind of get these broad swaths of what is life like around Pluto versus the Jupiter moons versus like those. Like, there's not a ton of detail about all the intricacies of all those things, but it's just enough to let you know what the difference is between these people and these people. So it focuses more on the characters, right?
Yes.
It's a very character-driven book series, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that means that he also, like, since you can see little bits of it, that means he knows everything about life.
Oh, no doubt. He surely did a ton of research and has reams and reams of material about all of it.
I want to see it all.
He needs to write, you know, an encyclopedia.
He should. I would read it. I would read it every day.
Yeah. So I think it was great. I think we got different things out of it. Probably. I think since we've both read it now, we will have more conversations about current events in terms of those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I think in terms of what happened in Red Rising and how, like, there's analogies to what's happening in our current society and political system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that. But again, it's a very timely thing and worth reading, yeah?
Yes.
So you would recommend people read it?
Oh, absolutely. I am in the process of trying to force all my friends to read it.
Yep.
Because there's this thing where there's, I have a friend group of like about 6 people, and when one of us loves something, you have to somehow like divide and conquer, like slowly convince more and more people to read it.
Have you got anyone else reading it yet?
Not yet, and it makes me mad. Probably because they're a little bit weirded out about me being like, you need to read Red Rising right now.
Right.
Or I've used a lot of threats from the book to make them read it.
Okay, so go read Red Rising.
Do it.
If you want to do like quasi book club, like we mentioned in the Patreon live chat last night, we're reading Ready Player One right now.
Yep.
So if you want, next month sometime probably, we'll talk about the Ready Player One book and all the movies we watched as research. So if you want to keep up with us and you haven't done Ready Player One, definitely read that one because that's going to be the next book we talk about probably.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please read Red Rising. And like I said...
Tell us what you think.
Yes.
Who's your favorite character? Like, even as you read it.
Yes.
Yeah, as you read it, tell us what you think about it.
Who's your favorite character and why is it Severo? And thank you so much for watching again. Read it. I love it so much. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if the plot doesn't sound like your thing, read it just for Severo.
Yeah, read the first.
So
give it a shot, even if it sounds not up your alley.
You will probably fall in love with one of the characters because I can tell there are a bunch of characters built for a bunch of different people to really like. And
it starts off with a whole like battle royale kind of vibe thing.
Oh,
that's
it's so
the Hunger
cool.
Games battle royale thing. So yeah,
just
definitely dive in those. It's really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Bye.
Bye, guys.
I did it really weirdly. Bye.